Hi, I'm Jonathan Hall. Today, I want to dive into ChatGPT and let's learn what it knows about Go. So, ChatGPT is all the rage these days, and of course, that means I have to do a video about it, doesn't it? Now, we know that ChatGPT is trained with data from 2021 and earlier, so it's not going to have knowledge of the most recent Go features. So, I'm going to try to quiz it and see what I can learn that it knows about Go. Now, before I hit record, I started playing with it and I asked it a question that it got wrong. So we're going to start with that and then we're going to go from there. So the first question I'm going to ask ChatGPT is, what is the shortest valid Go program? And let's see what it says. The shortest valid Go program is an empty file, which can be saved with the .go file extension. This is because Go requires all files to have the .go file extension, even if the file is empty. Now, this is actually different than the answer it gave me the first time. It's also wrong. Now, how do I know it's wrong? Well, let's look at the Go spec. So the important part of the Go spec here, it says the main package must have package name main and declare a function main that takes no arguments and returns no value. So ChatGPT gave us the wrong answer because it says it's an empty file. Now, an empty file doesn't have a package name, which is interesting because the first time I asked this question, it told me that the shortest valid Go program was a file that contained a package name and nothing else. Let me ask it again and see what it does. Maybe I need to ask it to create one. Yeah, so it's completely not doing what it said at first. But at first it told me literally that it needed the main package to be declared and nothing else. So it suggests, let me just show you what it actually recommended. We'll do this on the Go playground because that's a great place to do this sort of thing. So its first recommendation was literally just this, package main and nothing else. And if we try to run this, we'll see that it fails. Function main is undeclared in the main package. So this got me thinking, maybe this used to be considered a valid Go program and ChatGPT is just out of date. Go 1.18, which is the oldest version supported in the playground, came out long after ChatGPT was trained, and it has this problem. So I hopped over to the Git repo of the Go spec to see when that clause was added. Let me show you what I found. So here is that sentence. The main package must have package name main and declare a function. So that hasn't been changed in the last 11 years. So ChatGPT has no excuse. ChatGPT is just wrong. Both the answer it's giving me now and the one it gave me before recording are both just completely wrong. So what is the correct answer? I believe this is the minimum valid Go program. You need to declare the package main, and you need to create a function main, but that function can do nothing. Now, if I execute this, it should work, no errors, but also no output. So that is actually the minimum valid Go program, despite what ChatGPT will tell you. Let's see if we can stump it on anything else. Create a Go program that divides 10 by 0. I'll just scroll up here. The following Go program divides 10 by 0, which will cause a runtime error. So that's good. It recognizes that. In Go, dividing a number by 0 is not allowed and will cause a runtime error. That's true. The program will fail when fmt.println statement is executed because it attempts to divide 10 by 0. If you run the program, you will see an error message like the following. Runtime error, integer divide by 0. It is generally not a good idea to write programs that cause runtime errors like this, as it can lead to unexpected behavior and make your program difficult to debug. Instead, you should try to avoid situations where runtime errors are likely to occur. I agree with that. Let's see, actually, if this is the correct error. Let's copy this program it gave us over into the playground, and let's execute it. Invalid operation, division by 0. And it predicted runtime error, integer divide by 0. So it didn't really get the error message right, although maybe that's changed in the last few years, although I kind of doubt it. So it got the spirit right, but not the exact error message, which is appropriate. And to be fair, it did say it would be an error message like the following. It doesn't say exactly the following. It also omitted the file and line number, which are usually included in a panic like that. So we'll give it 9 out of 10, I think, on this one. Let's try something else. Which is faster, Go or Python? It is difficult to say which language is faster in general, as the performance of a program can depend on many factors, such as the specific algorithm is used, the hardware it is running on, and the way the code is written and optimized. Well, that seems right. In general, Go is known for being a fast and efficient language, while Python is known for its ease of use and simplicity. Okay, I'll give it 10 out of 10 on that one. That's more or less a good answer. Which is easier to learn, Go or Java? Go and Java are both popular programming languages with their own unique features and capabilities. In terms of ease of learning, it ultimately depends on the individual and their prior programming experience. Some people may find Go to be easier to learn because of its simple and straightforward syntax, while others may find Java to be easier because of its similarities to other object-oriented languages. I pretty well agree with that too. I'll give that a 10 out of 10. What is the best web framework for Go? There are several web frameworks available for Go, and the best one for your project will depend on your specific needs and preferences. Some popular web frameworks in Go include Jin, BGO, and Iris. Jin is a lightweight framework with a simple API, BGO is a fully featured MVC framework, and Iris is a high-performance framework with a focus on stability and speed. All of these frameworks have active communities and are regularly updated, so you can choose one that best fits your project. Okay, so I agree with the sort of diplomatic answer here, that the best one depends on your needs and preferences. It's interesting that it chose these three, because these aren't necessarily the most popular ones, at least in my experience. I would expect, based on popularity, I would expect to see Echo on this list. I would expect to see Jin, maybe Revel. I don't know if Revel is still popular. It used to be. Yeah, I suppose it's an arbitrary list. Who really cares? But the most common answer in the Go community is don't use a framework, which this doesn't even suggest. So let's ask it that one. Should I use a web framework in Go? Whether or not to use a web framework in Go is ultimately a decision that depends on your specific project and needs. Using a web framework can make it easier to develop web applications by providing a predefined structure and a set of tools and libraries. This can save you time and effort. Okay. On the other hand, using a web framework can add complexity to your project. In general, it is a good idea to use a web framework if you're developing a large or complicated web application. So honestly, I don't like this answer. This is not really a Go answer. This is sort of a general web framework answer. And in general, it probably makes sense to use a framework for large, complicated applications. Go is a little bit unique, though, because its standard library gives you most of the capabilities a framework would give you anyway. And so using a framework often is considered unnecessary in Go, and so I don't really like this answer. I would give it probably 8 out of 10 for a general answer, but only about 5 out of 10 as this is about Go. I think this is I think there are times when a framework is appropriate in Go, but I don't think this is the right litmus test. Large complicated applications isn't the right test. Let's see how much it understands the standard library. Let's ask, what are 3 possible errors I might receive when calling the open in Go? I think this is a good answer. Let's read through the whole thing. The os.open function in Go is used to open a file for reading or writing. This function can return one of several possible errors depending on the circumstances. Here are 3 possible errors you might receive when calling os.open. os.error not exist. This error indicates that the file you are trying to open does not exist. This can happen if you specify an incorrect file path or if the file has been deleted or moved. Seems correct. os.error permission. This error indicates that you do not have permission to access the file. This can happen if the file has the wrong permission set or if you do not have sufficient permissions to access the file. And 3, os.error exists. This indicates that the file you are trying to create already exists. This can happen if you create a file using the osCreate function and the file already exists. In this case, you will need to either delete the existing file or use a different file name. So technically correct, although not quite perfectly relevant. Its explanation for os.error exists talks about using osCreate. Now, true, osCreate can return this error, but I didn't ask about os.create, I asked about os.open. os.open can also return this error if you pass it the correct flags. I believe os.create just calls os.open with those flags. So it's not technically incorrect, but it's a confusing response. I'm going to give it 9 out of 10. Subtracting 1 for a slightly confusing response there. Let's try something a little more subtle. How can I get JSON.Marshall to return an error in Go? Let's see if it can tell me how to trigger an error with JSON.Marshall. The long answer. Let's see how correct it is. The JSON.Marshall function in Go is used to convert a Go data structure to a JSON encoded string. True. The function will return an error if it is unable to convert the data into a JSON string. Fair enough. Here are some possible ways to get JSON.Marshall to return an error in Go. Provide a data structure that cannot be encoded as JSON. For example, JSON.Marshall will return an error if you try to encode a Go channel or a function value. True. Provide a data structure with circular reference. JSON does not support circular references, so JSON.Marshall will return an error if you try to encode a data structure that contains a circular reference. That's probably true. I'm going to test that. But probably true. Provide a data structure with a field that has an unsupported type. JSON supports only a limited set of types. So JSON.Marshall will return an error if you try to encode a data structure that contains a field with a type that is not supported by JSON. I think that's just a duplicate of the first one. I guess the first one is talking about passing the type directly, and this is making it a struct field. But I think so maybe they're distinct, but it seems like it's the same thing. Provide a data structure with a field that has a name that cannot be encoded as a JSON string. JSON requires the field names to be valid strings, so JSON.Marshall will return an error if you try to encode a data structure that contains a field with a name that is not a valid JSON string. I wonder how that would be done. I'm going to have to think about that. Let's see if we can test each of these. The first one and third one I know to be true. The second one, circular reference. Let's see if we can trigger that. So for circular reference, I think the easiest way will be to use a map that that is a string to interface. We'll just use any. That's a nice new way to do that. And then let's make X. Actually, I don't even need a custom type. I'll just do it like this. Map string any. And let's do X to nil. And then I'm going to change this to X equals X. So X is now a map that points to with one element, and that element's value is a pointer to X itself. So let's see if we can marshal this. I'll just do this. All right, let's see what happens. Unsupported value encountered a cycle. Great. So ChatGPT is right. I had never tried that before. So one win for ChatGPT. And then the fourth one here, provide a data structure with a field that has a name that cannot be encoded as a JSON string. I don't know what that would be. It did say field name, right? Yeah, so for one thing, that's not strictly true because you can override the field name with a JSON tag. So let's imagine this is invalid. It's not, but imagine it is. I could replace it with a valid one with the JSON tag. So that alone is not enough. It would have to have an invalid field name and not have a JSON struct. So it's already lost a point there, but I'm still not sure if you can create a field name that's not valid JSON. Maybe if it's a UTF-8 character, let's try an emoji or something like that. Invalid identifier, so we need to make sure this is valid somehow. I think it needs to start with a letter, so let's try that. Still doesn't like it. So it needs to be valid Go and not valid JSON. This is going to be tricky. I'm trying a couple different Unicode characters here, and I'm not finding one that actually works. So I'm I'm going to give this another negative point. I'm not 100% sure that this is factually incorrect, but it's certainly not very actionable. I don't think you can create a struct in Go with a field name that's not a valid JSON string. But if I'm wrong, please leave a comment. Let me know. So I'm gonna give this one. I have to deduct a couple. I don't know. It's like an 7 or 8 out of 10. I mean, it's half right. It's not right enough, really. I would downvote this answer on Stack Overflow probably. So I'm not giving it a good score. Let's call it 5 out of 10. It got part of it right, but part of it wrong. So let's move on. Let's ask some slice tricks. How can I reverse a slice in Go? Aha! This is a wrong answer. 0 points, but I'll explain. To reverse a slice in Go, you can use sort.reverse function from the sort package. This function takes a slice as an argument and reverses its order in place, so you don't have to create a new slice to store the result. I don't believe that is true. Let's look at the Go doc. Yeah, so the doc isn't actually obvious, but the example is. Sort.reverse does not reverse a slice. It reverse orders a slice. So in other words, it sorts in descending order rather than ascending order. So this answer is just 100% wrong. Now, the example that ChatGPT gave wouldn't prove that because it gives us a sorted slice to begin with. So it would actually work in this case. If your input is sorted, then in ascending order, then yes, calling sort.reverse will reverse it. But if your input is not in ascending order, then you're not going to get what you want. Let me demonstrate. Let's go to the playground here, paste this in here, we'll run it. And we will see the output is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is not what I would have expected. Oh, wait. The output isn't even what it claims to be. Now let me understand why. So the input is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then we sort int slice and reverse it, which this is unnecessary. You can just sort the numbers directly. So this is wrong in so many levels. I'm pretty sure this is meaningless. Oh, okay. So that's not a function. That's a type. So it's converting our int slice into a slice that sort.reverse can work on. So that's fair. That makes sense. But I'm still not sure why it's giving us this particular result. Oh, I do know why. Well, I think I know why. Well, I'm quite confused here now, honestly. So the example here shows it calling sort. So I think that is somehow necessary, but I haven't used this function very much, if at all. So calling reverse doesn't actually reverse it, does it? That's just a type also, essentially, or returns it wrapped in a type that does the reversing for you. So to make this work, we need to call sort dot. Is it sort? I was just looking at it and I've already forgotten. Yeah. Now we get the reversed output. All right. So basically, ChatGPT utterly fails, completely 100% in this case. It gives completely the wrong direction and the wrong implementation of that direction. So everything about this answer is wrong. How do you reverse a slice in Go? Let's talk about that. There's a nice little gist here on GitHub called Go Slice Tricks. I think this is the right one. Which is a great place to go if you have questions like this, how to do things with a slice. And here's the correct way to reverse a slice in Go. You basically need to loop over it and swap the elements. Let's put that in the playground here and see it in action. Let's see if that works. And it works. Well, so it works for the ordered case. Let's make sure it works for an unordered case. Let's just change a couple of these around here and see if we get the reverse order. So we should get 5, 4, 1, 3, 5, 4, 1, 2, 3, 5, 4, 1, 2, 3. So that works. So this is the correct way to reverse a slice in Go. Sorry, ChatGPT, you lose that one. Let's ask one about testing. How can I mock time.now in Go? We got another long answer here. Let's see what it says. To mock time.now in Go, you can use the time.now function from the time package and provide a custom implementation that returns the time you want. That doesn't tell me anything. This can be useful for testing purposes, as it allows you to control the time that is returned by time.now and test your code behaves in different scenarios. Just how your code behaves in different scenarios. Here's an example of how to mock time.now in Go. So we have our main function. We say now equals time.now. Okay, store the current time. Mock the time.now function by providing a custom implementation. You can't do that. That's not possible in Go. You can't just arbitrarily overwrite a package level function. Let's prove it. Run. Use of package time not, oh. What? Use of package time not in selector. Okay, yeah. So this is invalid basically. It's saying you can't use time that way. And then it also says you cannot assign to time.now value of type func. Yeah. So no. Completely wrong. Sorry, ChatGPT. You lose again. This one's wrong. How do you mock time in Go? Well, there are a couple ways. I've actually answered this question on Stack Overflow, I believe. Yes, I have. So let's look at my answer. So the question, the original question is there an easy way to stub out time.now globally during test? And my answer, which isn't the accepted one, so there's more than one answer, but let's look at mine first, and then we'll go to the top voted one. If the methods you need to mock are few, such as now, as opposed to the other methods exposed by the time package, like parse and so on, you can make a package variable which can be overwritten by tests. So this is similar to what ChatGPT just told us. You can make a package variable called now. So in this case, var now equals time.now. Notice I'm not calling time.now here, as ChatGPT had us do. I'm just, so this variable is now a function, right? It contains a function. Now in your test file, you can assign that function to something else. So this is what ChatGPT was trying to tell us to do. It just didn't, it missed that step of making it a local or a package variable. It was trying to do that. You're trying to override the default variable or the default function, which you can't do in Go. Now, the accepted answer here is actually also a really good one, and it's a more general purpose one, and that is to use a clock interface. And this is something I've done many times. There's actually a proposal to make something like this part of the standard library, but it hasn't gotten a lot of traction. Likely won't happen. But basically, you can create a clock interface and put whatever method you want on it, like now and after and whatever other arbitrary methods you want. And then you use that implementation. You implement that interface in your tests. For your standard code, you would use default implementations, which looks like this. It just calls time.now or time.after as you expect. So those are two good ways to do the same thing. Sorry, ChatGPT, you lose again. 0 out of 10. Completely wrong answer in every way. I think this is a good summary of ChatGPT's use in Go. I don't think any of us are in danger of losing our jobs just yet. ChatGPT makes some pretty horrendous mistakes sometimes. Sometimes it gives useful and meaningful answers, but to know how to distinguish the good ones from the bad ones, you kind of have to already know what you're doing. So yeah, I think our jobs are safe. If you enjoyed this, be sure to hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you see other content I create about Go and the future. And if you could use some help on your Go team or your Go projects, I'm available. Hit me up on boldlygo.tech. That's boldlygo.tech. You can contact me there. I'm available for hire or to answer simple questions. And of course, leave your comments and questions in the comments as well. Hope to see you next time.